Good morning, Year 4. I hope you're having a good week so far, and I hope you're getting on with all your work and you are enjoying working from home. So today we are going to be looking at how to train your dragon again. We're going to be reading some more of chapter 2 first, and then we are going to be starting to look at writing some of our own sentences again. But this time we're going to write it about dragons. So first of all, like we did yesterday, we will create a bank of adjectives to describe a dragon. We'll look at some words that Cressida Cowell, the author, uses to describe the dragons in the story as well. And then we'll get round to writing again some of our own sentences to describe the dragon. So let's start to read. We'll just get this set up so that you can see the book. So I'll start from the bottom of page 32 again. So, after 10 long minutes of walking and crawling to the heart of the cliff, the stench of a dragon, a salty stink of seaweed and old mackerel heads, got stronger and stronger until finally it became unbearable and the tunnel opened up into a ginormous cave. The cavern was full of more dragons than Hiccup could ever have imagined existed. There was every possible colour and size, and they included all species that Hiccups had heard of, and quite a few more that he hadn't. Hiccup started sweating as he looked around him. A pile after pile of animals draped over every available surface, even hanging upside down from the roof like giant bats. They were all fast asleep, and most of them were snoring in unison. This was a sound so loud and so deep it seemed to penetrate right through Hiccup's body and vibrate around his soft insides, churning his stomach and bowels and forcing his heart to beat at the same slow pace as a dragon's pulse. If just one of these countless creatures were to wake, it would raise the alarm to the others, and the boys would meet a horrible death. Hiccup had once seen a deer that had wandered too close to the wild dragon's cliff, torn to pieces in a matter of minutes. Hiccup closed his eyes. "I will not think about it," he said to himself. "I will not." None of the boys were thinking about it. Ignorance is very useful in such circumstances. Their eyes were popping with excitement as they walked through the cave, hands over their noses to keep out the revolting smell, looking for the biggest dragon they could find that would fit into their basket. They left the torches in a pile at the entrance. The cavern was already well lit by glowworms, huge sluggish animals dotted here, and they were that shone with a steady yet dim fluorescent like a low-watt light bulb, and the flame huffers gave off an extra little burst of light that flickered on and off as they breathed in and out. Predictably, most of the boys headed towards the pug ugly of the dragon world. Snotlout made a big fuss about grabbing a vicious-looking monstrous nightmare, smiling nastily at Hiccup as he did so. Snotlout was the son of Baggy Bum, the beer belly, Stock the Vast's younger brother. He was intending to get rid of Hiccup sometime in the future so that he, Snotlout, would become chief of the hairy hooligan tribe, and the gruesome and terrifying chief, as Snotlout meant to be, would need a properly awesome dragon. Wartyhog and Dog's Breath got into a loud whispered fight over a gonkel, a heavy armoured brute with fangs like kitchen knives sticking out in such numbers that it couldn't keep its mouth shut. Dog's Breath won. They managed to drop it as he was trying to bundle it into his basket. The weaponry of this beast made a horrible loud clatter as it landed on the floor of the cavern. The gronkel opened its evil crocodile eyes. Everybody held their breath. The grockle started ahead, It was difficult to tell from its blank expressions whether it was awake or fast asleep. Hiccup realised, in an agony of suspense, that the gossamer thin third eyelid was still down, and there it stayed for a few heart-stopping seconds until it slowly closed its upper eyelids again. Amazingly, not one of the other dragons woke up. A few grumbled groggily before making themselves comfy again, but most were in such a stupor that they barely even stirred. Hiccup let out his breath slowly. Maybe these dragons were so dead to the world that nothing would wake them. He swallowed hard, muttered a prayer to Loki, the patron saint of sneaky exploits, and edged forward cautiously to grab the most unconscious-looking dragon so he could get out of this nightmare as fast as possible. So I'm just going to read a little bit about the Groncle to you. So it's here. This is a picture of the Groncle here. So the Groncle is a pug ugly of the dragon world, but what it lacks in looks it makes up on the battlefield. They can be slow and, dare I say it, stupid, and sometimes they get so fat that they are unable to take off. They are also prone to dragon acne. Statistics: colour: so it's snot green, boggy beige, and pooey brown. armed with all the best in the dragon weaponry: fangs like daggers, extra spikes on the neck, balls with spikes on the end of the tail. Fear factor 7, attack 8, speed 8, size 7, disobedience 5. It was a little known fact that the dragons grew colder the deeper they sleep. It is even possible for the dragon to go into a sleep coma in which they are icy cold with no obvious pulse or breath or heartbeat. They can stay in this state for centuries, and only a high-skilled expert can tell from looking at them whether they're alive or dead. But a dragon who is awake or lightly sleeping is very warm indeed, like bread that has just come out the oven. Hiccup found one that was about the right size and fairly cool to touch, and manoeuvred it into his basket quickly and carefully as he could. It was a very basic brown. But at the moment Hiccup could not have cared less. Even though it was barely half grown, it was surprisingly heavy. So we're going to leave it there. So now, I would like you to have a think of what adjectives you could use to describe the dragon. While I do that, I'm just going to get my charger for my laptop. Right, so we should have had a little think about what adjectives we can use to describe a dragon. So we know that Cressida Cowell, the author, used some good adjectives to describe her dragons. Some of them she used sluggish, some heavily armoured or brute, horrible, evil, monstrous, vicious looking. She used a lot of adjectives to describe her dragons. I have written some adjectives to describe dragons. Mine are monstrous, majestic, scaly, serrated, bloodthirsty, mythical, ferocious and colossal. You can see these adjectives on on your worksheet, you can see it again. It's like Monday's worksheet. There's a table, and on the left hand side, my adjectives for describing the dragon are there, and on the right hand side, it's blank for you to put your adjectives. So what I would like you to do now is think of 8 adjectives you would use to describe a dragon. I'd like you to pause the video now and have a go at that. Okay, so now you should have thought of some adjectives, and we're going to use these adjectives to write 3 sentences. So, I'm going to give you an example. Examples again. I'm only going to write one of them down. So, let's take them one at a time. So the first example of mine was flying down over the cave. The dragon's serrated teeth gnashed in the daylight. So I've thought of my sentence. Now I need to think to punctuate it and put capital letters and full stops. So let's write it down. Oh. Not over, in the daylight. Okay, so flying down over the cave, the dragon's serrated teeth gnashed in the daylight. So I have used a capital letter, punctuated it with a full stop and a comma. So now what I would like you to do is think of your first sentence, and my adjective I used from my word bank was serrated. So remember to use one of the words from your word, one of the adjectives from the word bank. So I'd like you to pause the video and have a go at your first sentence now. Okay, so you should have had a go at writing your sentence. So I'm going to give you another example sentence. So I have the ferocious dragon opened its red killer eyes and stared into the distance. I'll read that one to you again. The ferocious dragon opened its red killer eyes and stared into the distance. So again, I have looked at my word bank, I have taken the word ferocious and I have put that into a sentence. So now I'd like you to take an adjective from your word bank and use that in your second sentence. Just pause the video and have a go at that now. So you should have now have written 2 sentences. So I'm going to give you another example, and I would like you to just listen up. The monstrous beast hung from the cave ceiling like a bat. I'll read that to you again. The monstrous beast hung from the cave ceiling like a bat. So I have took the word monstrous and I have put from my word bank and I have put it into a sentence. So again, I would like you to use another adjective from your word bank that you haven't used yet and put it into your third sentence. Okay, so you should have now written 3 sentences using 3 different adjectives. Now for your challenge of the day. I would like you to take 3 adjectives from your word bank, and again, like you did on Monday, I would like you to put these adjectives in a list using commas. I have put an example on the worksheet again for you, so you can have a read of that, but use your own adjectives and write a sentence using commas in a list. So I hope you enjoyed our English lesson today.